Good morning. Welcome to Knittings and Sewings, a podcast about all things fiber related, including knitting, spinning, sewing, weaving, crochet. And this is Groundhog Day. We're on episode 40 and wanted to come to you today in my Valentine looking sweater, which I made last year. And I'm going to tell you just a little bit about it, but if you really want to go more in depth about how I went about making it and details about it, you can go to episode 27, which we'll link to. And so you can go there and hear all the details. And I'm going to tell you the basics, though, about it, because I think this might be a good end of winter sweater to make. I made this at the end of last winter. In fact, I didn't finish it until March. Took me about 6 weeks, which is fast for me for a sweater. And I did 2 carry-along threads, but you could use a heavier worsted if you wanted to. But it's definitely a worsted weight sweater. For me, I use size 9 and 10 needles. And so the name of this particular pattern is called the Totally Tubular Turtleneck, and it is by Park Williams. I will tell you this pattern is a $9 pattern, but I think it's well written, and I'm going to make it again in the future. I really liked it. So for me, it was worth the $9. I used the Hobbi Fluffy Day yarn, and you can also, there's a Knit Picks yarn, which is very similar. I think it might be called Wonder Fluff, but not sure of that. My color I used is deep pink. And I used the Hobbi Diablo Wild Print carry-along tweedy kind of artificial mohair in a lace weight yarn, and it's called Hobbi Diablo. It comes again in both the solid and these prints. I did the number 3 Wild Thing print, which has little flecks of purple, orange, blue, just all kinds of different little flecks that go along well with the pink. I'm going to put a close-up here of the fabric so you can see how lovely it is. I really like it. For the cuffs and the neck, the turtleneck, I just used the plain pink, the original Fluffy Day rather. I left them pure pink. So for the ribbing and the ribbing on the sleeves and the neck and the bottom, I used pure pink. But otherwise, I used the carry-along with it. And so it was a really fast sweater, but it also didn't use a ton of yarn. You will have to, of course, it'll vary by your size you need, but mine, I only used 855 meters of yarn, which is 936 yards. It took me 3 skeins of the Fluffy Day. So this was a very affordable sweater, and I really am happy with it. It's a loose, casual, very comfy, and the yarn is soft, easy to care for. I couldn't speak highly enough of this sweater. And since it's this Valentine color, I thought I would wear it today because I'm starting to admittedly wish that spring would hurry on a little bit. We've had a rough winter, and I've been able to wear this sweater along with several of my other sweaters very often this winter so far. So check it out if you are interested in still doing a pullover. Next up, I'm going to talk about the Carbeth cardigan that I was mentioning in the last episode that I was going to be casting on. This is by Kate Davies, and I'm going to put a picture up here, a better picture of the cardigan and how it's going to end up looking. Kate Davies has made this pattern in both the pullover version and a cardigan, and this is not a new pattern. It's been around since 2018, and so I've admired it ever since then. In all these years, for some reason, I never made it. So now is the time to take my hand-spun yarn, and I'm going to show you my hand-spun here. I showed you this last time. I not only spun this yarn out of the BFL fiber that I purchased at a local little Missouri town here in Kansas City, but I also dyed it. And in episode 27, as I mentioned before, where I talk more about the making of this pullover sweater, I also talk about the dyeing, and I show the dyeing process for this yarn. I use the Jacquard acid dye in the color Crimson from Darwin Trading Company. And at first I was disappointed in the way the dye took to the yarn. It was too light of a red, and I wanted it this crimson color. So I had to end up over dyeing it, to get to the right color depth. And I also, had to over dye to make sure that my yarn was as uniform as possible. But if you want to hear more about that whole process, again, episode 27 is a good one to tune into to learn more about it. But that's the yarn I'm using. And I started off thinking I just wanted to use this yarn alone. And I did some initial gauge swatches. Let me see here where my gauge swatches are. I did some initial gauge swatches. And, I'll just show you this one that I can find right now. I did the 4x4 gauge swatch. And I started off with a size 9. But what I was finding is that the fabric was coming out very wholly. It was, to me, not a good consistent fabric. And this is a 2-ply yarn that I spun. So when you do 2-ply with knitting, sometimes it can be a little bit that way, depending on the fiber you're using. And this is mainly BFL mix. It has a lot of good springiness to it. But again, because I did it 2-ply, the yarn is maybe not as consistent as some other yarns I've spun. So I decided, doing my gauge swatches, size 8, going down to a size 8, to try to get a tighter fabric. I still had a little bit of holiness, not too bad. I would have been happy with that fabric, but it was producing too small a swatch. It was going down to 3.5 inches by 3.5. So I would have ended up with too small a sweater. And finally, after casting on once and, knitting quite a bit, I was casting on the size 4 of the sizing. But when I did that, I was finding that I wanted to just use this yarn by itself, this handspun. But as it turned out, I still didn't like the fabric I was getting, and so I had started my ribbing, the 6 rows of ribbing, and I'd done like 20 rows of stockinette with that size 9 needle, and then realized this is just not going to work. The fabric is not solid enough for my cardigan. So I ended up adding, I had to order it and wait for it to come, but it didn't take too long to arrive. But I ordered the Hobbi Diablo, the same thing I have as a carry-along in this sweater. I had bought the solid candy apple red. It's not an exact match at all with my cranberry looking crimson of this, but the two together make a pleasant red. I like it. And so once again, I cast on again, started knitting away, and now I'm at 10 rows of the stockinette. So here we go. So I am, just starting. And this is a bottom-up sweater. So this fabric, though, is much more to my liking than what I had before. So I think it is worth me starting all over. One thing I will say, if you are going to work on the Carbeth, and it is a purchase pattern, I don't remember what I paid for it, but you do have to purchase it. The thing you want to make note of, though, is that you're probably going to want to go up a size than what you might normally think. So for me, I would normally have picked the 45 to start with, because, no, it's a 43. No, hold on. It is a 45. 45 inch is normally what I would have picked to have a fairly roomy, comfortable sweater. But knowing that Kate Davies on this pattern, people are commenting that it ended up being smaller than they expected. And then she made a comment here that says this cardigan is intended to be a wide cropped cardigan and to hang bell-like from the shoulders. To fit as shown, it should be knitted with at least 10 centimeters, which is 4 inches of positive ease. So that's why I ended up going up to the 50-inch sweater, because I just wanted to make sure that I had it large enough. And so that is what I'm doing. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, size 4 is what I've got. So yeah, so that's going to be in the works. I'm finally, getting a start that I like. Very often, when you are doing a sweater, I used to just go for it and do the best I could, and I had sizing problems often. I had gauge problems. And so one thing, I took a gauge class with Patty Lyons. It was a video class, and she made a comment that really stuck with me the rest of the time as a knitter, and it really improved my gauge swatches, because she said, you are going to do a gauge swatch. For those who think they're going to avoid it and just go with what the designer calls for or go with their gut, she says you're going to end up, instead of making a small gauge swatch, your whole project is going to become the gauge swatch. So I kind of used, in this case with Carbeth, I used a larger gauge swatch than I probably had to, but I'm glad I did go ahead and knit those 25 rows, because it gave me more of a feel for the fabric and the pattern and just got me in the groove. The book that she has out now is called The Knitting Bag of Tricks, over 70 sanity-saving hacks for better knitting. And this is where she spends quite a bit of time going into the information about gauge and how to improve your gauge. She has a lot of things she covers in here. The anatomy of a stitch and all kinds of things. But one thing she says is that the purpose of gauge is not to match the designer's gauge. So if Kate Davies knit this sweater on a size 10.5 needle, my purpose is not to get to the size 10.5 needle or to match her gauge. My purpose is to find a fabric that will work well for the sweater. And that's why I ended up ripping out what I had and restarting, because I really did not like the fabric that was created by the original handspun yarn. And no matter what I was doing, by adjusting the needle size alone was not doing it. And this pattern actually does call for holding 2 DK weight yarns together. So I kind of achieved the same thing by having my light worsted handspun yarn accompanied with the Hobbi Diablo. So I'm going to put a link below for the Hobbi Diablo that I ended up using. And I think it's not real mohair, it is acrylic. But I think as a carry-along yarn, it's a really good, affordable option. If you ever have something where you need a carry-along thread, and especially if you want a fuzzy carry-along thread, I think the Hobbi Diablo is one you should consider and check into. One more thing that I want to mention before we leave the Carbeth, I want to mention that I am using the Knit Pro Zing needles. I think these were actually in the past owned by Knitter's Pride. There was a Zing and there was Dreams, D-R-E-A-M-Z. I now believe that both needles are owned by Knit Pro. Correct me if I'm wrong, if you know otherwise. But I've been ordering these. I originally ordered one from Hobbi, and then I've also gotten them from Amazon before. But anyway, wherever you get them or from your knit shop, I think these Zing needles are really nice. They have nice smooth joins, and the only thing I had to correct was they come in these packages like this. And so when they arrive, especially if you get them in the mail, when they arrive, they're a little bit kinked up from being in the box. But I followed someone's advice on YouTube, and I put them in a pan of pretty hot water on the stove, not boiling, but fairly warm. And that ended up unkinking them really quickly. So I would recommend the Dreams or the Zing needles, whichever they're called for you. And let me know if you've used them and what your thoughts are on them. I have a whole set of, the Koigu interchangeable needles, and I have another set of the Knit Picks wooden needles, And while I like using those, I just find something less fiddly about just having, especially when you're doing a whole sweater project, of having a needle that is a fixed needle and not having to worry about it coming unjoined. You know, and I'm sure that that's just my own personal preference. But if you have ever used the Dreams needles or the Zing needles, let me know what your thoughts are on them. But I just think they're a very well-made needle, and I love the join. There's no rough place there on the join, and the cable is soft and easy to work with. The needle is just a pleasure. It feels nice in the hand, and so I would, you know, mention that I really enjoy working with those. The tea I'm drinking today, because I've been under a lot of stress, the tea I'm drinking is the Yogi Blueberry Sage Stress Relief Tea. And one thing I love about this is not only the taste, yummy, this is, I don't know, it's like it tastes like, yeah, it's blueberry is the main thing. But anyway, it really is caffeine free also for those that don't want to have the caffeine. And I'm drinking out of my spring mug because I'm hoping a little bit for spring. But I must say, after watching the Groundhog Day ceremony today, I don't know if any of you have ever watched it. I've heard about Punxsutawney Phil for so long, all through my childhood and all my life. And each year he comes out with a prediction. I've seen little clips on the news of them holding the, holding the animal up and the groundhog up in the air and, announcing what his prediction is. And so, but I never watched the whole thing. So today I was in the mood to see the whole thing, and Bob and I found it on YouTube. We really enjoyed seeing that whole process. It's really fun. And so today he did predict 6 more weeks of winter. So whatever that's worth, I think it's a fairly sure bet anyway that there's probably going to be 6 more weeks of winter for most of us. But here we are at the beginning of February, and so I'm kind of happy about that. That gives me more time to wear my hand knits. But anyway, I am kind of also. Will be ready for spring when it comes in 6 weeks, according to Phil. I also am thinking I want to watch the old movie Groundhog Day again today. I'm just in that kind of mood. So anyway, I just wanted to mention that according to Phil, we have 6 more weeks of winter to wear our hand knits and to cast on maybe 1 more sweater before it's over. Now it's time to talk about the sock that I decided to make. If you remember last time, I was debating between 3 or 4 different sock patterns and 2 different kinds of yarn. Well, I ended up deciding to go with Treasure Goddess, my friend Christine's Treasure Toe Socks. And this color, I incorrectly stated the color name last time, so I want to clarify. This is called Gunpowder, and this is in her Treasured Toes sock line. I really like it. It's a beautiful charcoaly color that would be very neutral and easy to wear with a variety of different outfits. So I've been putting in lifelines, but I'm about 4.5 inches into the leg at this point. And I'm putting a picture up here of the Mercury Socks that my friend Carolyn finished fairly recently. But this is an easy lace weight sock pattern. Lace pattern, sock pattern, and it's free. It's by Kim McKenzie. She's the designer. I'm really enjoying this. I'm putting lifelines in every few repeats, every repeat or 2, so that just in case I lose my attention span, I can still keep that lace on the needles and not have to rip it all out. But it's honestly a pretty easy to do lace pattern. It has both a chart for the lace as well as written instructions, and it's only a 5-row repeat. So this is really pretty doable for anyone who is, either likes to knit lace or is wanting to venture into it. This pattern might be an easy way to venture into a lace sock. And so I really like it. And what can you can't lose with a free pattern. But I'm really enjoying the process of doing this. And so I wanted to mention that this has been the decision I went with. And I'm knitting them on 2 double-pointed needles, but of course you can knit them on whatever you want to, DPs or 9-inch circs or magic loop method, whatever is your preferred method. I think this is a fun pair of socks to cast on. Next, I'm going to talk about crochet. I got an impulse around the beginning of the year, right at the beginning of January, that I wanted to do an Afghan, which I normally don't make Afghans. And when I do, I want them to be crochet myself. Because as slow as I am at knitting, if I were to do a knitted Afghan, it would take, I mean, literally probably 10 years. I would lose interest way before I would get far enough to finish it or even think about finishing it. So for me, crochet is the way to go with this. And I decided that I wanted to do an Annie's Attic crochet kit. I don't know if any of you have ever, purchased anything from Annie's Attic, but they have these crochet Afghan kits. They have a lot of different kits of a lot of things. But the Afghan kit, this one is called the Moroccan tile. And then they have like 5 different colorways, I think, that you can choose. And they have a little bit different name according to each colorway. The one that I decided to go with is called the Midnight Mosaic. And so it has different, it has blues, 2 blues, 2 purples, a lilac color and darker purple. And then those are showcased with a black backdrop. So I will put up a picture of the pattern so that you can see what this is looking like. It's you're going to be changing yarns quite a bit, and I'm going to show you how far I am. This is round 14, and I have 3 more rounds to finish kit 1. So this is how it looks all together. It starts off in a circle, and at the point I'm at now, I just squared it. So anyway, and this is about, it's going to end up, the first kit is going to end up at about 13 inches gauge-wise. So anyway, I had to go down needle size. She was using a 5.5, I don't remember, but I went down a hook size, not needle, a hook. So whatever you need to do to get the gauge, they give you really good instructions. There's a little leaflet that comes with the kit. And I ordered it in early January, and I've been working on it like 1 round a night. It's been very pleasant to sit in front of my laptop at home, or you could sit in front of your tablet, and it has video instructions with it. So it's really fun for me to sit down at night and just do a round, and then put it down. So I'm real excited about doing this. I will tell you, in case you decide to do the Annie's Attic Afghan kit, I'm not sponsored by them, but it isn't an inexpensive kit. I mean, you pay about $20 for the yarn itself, and I got 5 yarns in this first kit, and then you get the video instruction, and so the $20, then you have shipping, like $6.99 mine was. So you're going to pay, if you do this kit, like $27 a month. But for me, that has been an affordable luxury. I just started kit 1. And the only thing I would change, and I'm going to change, is my friend Judy is doing this with me. She did the Holiday Spice colorway, whereas I did Midnight Mosaic. So her colorway is more olive green and kind of a grayish green and a cream, and then this beautiful cranberry red. So I looked at her kit 1 and realized, wow, I like that colorway better, especially for my living room. What I got to thinking about is it's going to be, my Afghan, when it's finished, is going to be used in the hearth room here at my house. So I decided, for me, it's worth changing the kit over to a different colorway because, the purples and the blue, although it's very pretty, and those are colors I'm naturally drawn to, when I think about my hearth room, the colors aren't going to be very complementary to the colors in my room. because I have a lot of browns and beige and some red. It's just not going to go with the purple. So I am switching kits. So what I did was had to call them. Their customer service line is very nice. They were letting me cancel the kit. You can cancel anytime. And then I reordered the holiday spice, and it already came within maybe a week or less, 5 days. I got the next kit. So I'm going to be switching out from doing this colorway to the holiday spice. But I'm enjoying it so much. It's relieving my stress because I'm focusing on these special stitches, and I'm learning so much. So I really, if you're at all inclined to do an Afghan, let me know if you've ever done an Annie's Attic or any other kit club. And if you, I know there is a thing which I didn't take advantage of because I didn't notice it in time, but your very first kit, I think they give you like 50% off the first kit if you go to the Annie's Kit Club website. I didn't do it, I paid the full price, but for any of you that want to check it out, you can do so and just see what you think. I'm really excited about it. And every now and then I will pop on here and tell you any updates on my progress. The last thing I'm going to cover today is a book I'm reading. Normally I don't read a lot of romance. I have friends who write romance novels. I've had several friends, and at one time I tried my hand at writing a romance novel. I used to love to write fiction. And I was in a writer's group. So I normally, though, haven't been reading much romance lately. I'm more tuned into other genres like science fiction and mystery and that type of thing. So, but for some reason, maybe it's because, Valentine's Day is coming up here and I'm in that, that mood for Valentine's Day. I decided to try a genre that is new to me. It's called Romantasy. And apparently it's a combination of romance and fantasy. And I often don't read fantasy novels either. I'm more inclined to read science fiction. But this one really piqued my attention. I'll tell you why. Look at the cover. Oh, I have to watch the glare here. But the cover is beautiful. And there are even beautiful orchid pages that are just lovely. So this book itself, the physical book, is an experience, a sensory experience all of its own that really drew me when I was at the bookstore to pick up this novel. I'd never read her work before. It's Sue Lynn Tan, and the name of the book is Immortal. And briefly, I'll just tell you what it was interesting. It drew me back to a memory of my 7th grade. In my social studies class, we had a unit on mythology, and I really got into mythology for quite a while, fables and mythology. And so this book harkens back in my memory to that kind of mythological tale is what it is. What it's about is a story, and again a fable, that takes place with the lead character, Leanne, has become the leader recently of something called the Celestial Kingdom. And of course this is all in fantasy. Her grandfather passed away. He was killed by what they call the Immortals, which is kind of like what we would call, the gods of like the Greek mythology. And so he was killed, and her people had been kind of, well, I don't know if enslaved is the right word. That's not really the right word, but they were, looking here what I wrote. They were indebted to and having to serve the Immortals because the Immortals saved them from an enemy that came down and, hurt them. So they were being protected, but also having to serve these Immortals. So the whole thing is she goes up to meet with and negotiate as she's the newly crowned queen of this celestial kingdom. And she's summoned up to meet with the Immortals. And one of them is the queen up there, and one is the god of war. And so what ensues is her trying to save her kingdom, while at the same time she starts falling in love with the god of war. I found this story really fun. She's trying to learn secrets that can free her people as she falls in love with this god of war. I just found the book not only a beautiful book physically, the book itself, it's fun to read the pages and hold the book, and it's just again, I just love the art in this. It has a lot to do, I have to admit, just look at the beauty in the book. I love it, and I also got it on Audible because I'm enjoying reading it so much that I wanted to keep reading even when I'm driving. So we're talking about a 450-page book. So it's not a short read, but it's really a compelling one. So if you are interested in dipping into the Romantasy genre and would like to try this, I think the month of Valentine's and romance is a good time to do it. Now, once again, I will end this particular episode and wish you happy knitting, crocheting, spinning, sewing, whatever it is that you like to do. I wish you a good month, and hopefully I'll be seeing you again soon and updating you on my projects. But as I say every time, love what you're making and wear what you make. Till next time, bye now.